Russians were able to use the underground sewage in Avdiivka to crawl through these secret passages and emerge behind Ukrainians to try and ambush them. The question is, were they successful? Not quite. At the same time, 40,000 more Russians reportedly arrived to the same city of Avdiivka. Russians also invented the invisibility cloak, and Kyrylo Budanov, the chief of defense intelligence of Ukraine, is reportedly kidnapped. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda is back! Oh, yepa! So, finally, I almost could do it, but let's talk about some ridiculous stuff. Today we have the chief of defense intelligence of Ukraine, Kyrylo Budanov, who was reportedly kidnapped by Russians. And they even published this picture of him saying that he was taken near Avdiivka and now he will answer for every single war crime he was doing against the soldiers of Russia. And to begin with, I would say that the Photoshop, which is obvious here, does not even look like a Photoshop. It looks like that they used paint or just they cut out the head of Budanov and put it on top of another soldier because it is that obvious. It is not him. But it was a very big news for the Russian media. They even started spreading it until it became too obvious not to be true. And one of the main reasons why it is not true is because Kyrylo Budanov is not in his signature pose, where he's standing like this, like he just finished exercising in the gym, he's flexing his muscles, and this is the Budanov pose. Nothing against this is just his signature move, which we cannot see here. But now, guys, let's be serious, because, guys, we have to talk. So, 47% of you guys watching these videos are not yet subscribed. And I know, let me even take a look. I know it is you, Greg, it is you, Josh, James, Ronald, and Brian. I think that's because I personally never asked you to subscribe to my channel, right? That's why you're not yet subscribed. Well, I did right now, so... tens of thousands of us are gonna be waiting right now until you subscribe to my channel. Okay, so, all good? All done? Shall we continue? But honestly, guys, just thank you every single one of you for subscribing, supporting my work, and liking this video. And if you haven't done so already, do it now. And as always, the weekend is coming, so you can follow me on Instagram to see how I live outside of YouTube. The link is down below. So yes, now it is time to get serious. First of all, let's go to the south of Ukraine and talk about Russians developing invisibility cloaks. Then we'll go to the east and talk about these sewer wars happening in Avdiivka. So yes, first of all, talking about the south, if you remember a couple of days ago, Ukrainians did a pretty big attack against Russian airfield located in Belbek to the north of Sevastopol. And apparently, recently it has been confirmed, including by Russians, that their own Lieutenant General Alexander Tatarenko was eliminated as a result of this attack, making it the second, only the second, so high-ranking military official of Russia to be eliminated in this Ukrainian war. Next we go to Crimean, where there is still a bridgehead of Ukrainians, and Russians still cannot push them away back to the other side of Kherson region. And Russians also themselves released this video, which showed the total destruction of the Russian military vehicles near Crimean, which were the results of unsuccessful assault attempts of the Russian forces. And the only thing which Russians are successful in, unfortunately, is the damaging civilian infrastructure, such as, for example, right here is the video from Kherson region, where you can see the consequence of one of the most recent attacks. But probably the most significant event that which became public recently is that Russians reportedly even developed a so-called invisibility cloaks, and there is even this video showing these cloaks in action, which indeed pretty much hides a Russian soldier with this night vision drone, which, by the way, unfortunately is extremely good timing for the Russian army, because it is only recently where Ukrainians started using these kind of drones a lot, especially along the Dnipro river down in Kherson region. And by the way, this video and all the other footage, just to be specific, this week alone I uploaded around 300 photos and videos to my Patreon, and you can get all of this with just one simple subscription, which starts as $4 for the entire month. There is also a big promotion right now running on my Patreon with 10% discount, so please go ahead and check it. This is the best way also to support my channel, my work. Thank you guys so much. So yes, now next stop, as promised, let's go to the east of Ukraine and talk about these front lines before we go to Avdiivka. And our first video comes to us from Kupiansk front line, where there's a compilation of Ukrainian drones clearing out the Russian trenches. Going a little bit down to Bakhmut, Ukrainians reportedly were able to destroy an assault group of Russians along with their armored vehicle next to this settlement, and even though it does not seem like the combat activities still continue next to this city, in fact, they do. And for example, right here is one of the most recent videos from one of Ukrainian soldiers showing that the activities are still pretty intense. It is just that neither of the sides are capturing land at this point. And yes, this video as well is on my Patreon, link once again down below. Next we go to Avdiivka, where as a result of yet another unsuccessful assault attempt by Russians, they lost even more armored vehicles, such as for example specifically 2 more T-72 tanks, 2 more T-80 tanks, and 1 more armored vehicle of unspecified type. And speaking about the settlement, according to the Ukrainian officer of the armed forces, they do see some new fresh conscripts arriving to this city, along with some new armored vehicles, which once again, as you can see, a lot of them are being eliminated without any advancement across the front lines. But according to them, the estimated number of new fresh force that Russians brought is to be around 40,000 people. And then to the south of Avdiivka in Novomikhailivka, right here is the video of Russian very old armored personnel carrier BTR-50, which is being destroyed by a Ukrainian drone, and this thing is pretty old to say the least. At least 40 plus years old. Reportedly Russians were still using them during the Afghanistan war, which shows you that they are extremely short on their armored vehicles. And just overall, in the last 24 hours, a total of 63 combat clashes happened between Russians and Ukrainians, with 16 of them being only in Avdiivka alone. And right here, we have some very interesting charts prepared for us by Andrew Perpetua, which basically shows what are the total losses of both Russian and Ukrainian army through the month of January, and then the next graph shows in which specific days Russians were losing the most of their armored vehicles and other military equipment. Feel free to pause the video if you want to see more details of these numbers. And obviously the most, let's call it, interesting event that happened specifically around Avdiivka in the month of January from the Russian side is that they were using underground sewer, let's call them passages, and they tried to approach the position of Ukrainians from behind. They even showed us these photos and videos of them doing so, which do not look, to be honest, appealing or anything like this. I mean, they're literally crawling through human waste. I don't wanna show much of these videos, but if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you know where to find it. On my Patreon. Reportedly, around 150 Russians were crawling through these tunnels. First of all, they were even digging through them. They were finding these entrances to these underground passages. And the total length of this underground passage was approximately 2 kilometers, just for them to emerge reportedly in this so-called restaurant, which was called Tsarskaya Akhota. And as you can see, even this map was able to kind of confirm the advancement of Russians in this weird-looking shape. And even one of the reports by the Institute for the Study of War also confirmed that there was an increase in movement of Russian forces inside Avdiivka itself. But the situation is not as perfectly clean for the Russians, pun intended. Because according to the Ukrainian forces, and which is confirmed by this article by the Forbes, as soon as they emerged from these underground tunnels, they were met already from Ukrainians. They were met by Ukrainian drones, to be more specific. And the reason, first of all, why Russians had to use these so-called tactics, it is because obviously they could not approach Avdiivka, neither from the east, nor from the north, nor from the south. So they had to come up with something new, something extraordinary. And I mean, just imagine this, just think for yourself. You're crawling for hours through a human waste, in the darkness, in the cold, in fear, in very unenjoyable smell, to say the least. And after hours of this nearly human torture, you emerge just to be eliminated by a Ukrainian drone. What a waste. But I bet this is not something that the Russian propaganda will be telling new willing Russians who want to join the Russian army, because this is not how they portray a perfect hero sacrificing his life for Putin's motherland. But well, the fact is the fact. It did happen. Russians spent months planning this attack. It looks like it never ended up in a big result or big success, except maybe just establishing the control over half a block or even less than this. But the situation did not change drastically in Avdiivka at all. It is still controlled by Ukrainians. And guys, I want to thank you all so much once again for supporting me this week, for making these videos when I was sick. I'm almost healthy right now. Thanks to your likes and subscribing to my channel. Sorry for coughing. I don't think it can be transmitted to the internet. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like my videos. Thank you so much, Patreons, and see you on Tuesday.